Hey guys, Heidi Preeb here. Welcome back to my channel. I wanted to start this video by telling you a story about a mistake I made. And I had a really weird experience processing this mistake because it was very different from my past experiences of making a mistake and just being like, Heidi, you are completely useless. It was actually quite nicely the opposite of that. So basically, earlier this year, I picked up a project, I agreed to a project that at the time, when I knew I was agreeing to this project, I was like, I don't have time or resources for this project. I knew. And there was certain things that I found very enticing, certain skills I wanted to build through taking on this project. And I was like, you know what? I'll just say yes. I will say yes and figure it out. And a lot of times in my life, that works out pretty well for me. This time, flash forward several months later, it did not. I had to drop the project. I got behind on some schoolwork and other commitments because I'd spent so much time trying to work on this other thing. And I had this moment with myself. After I had let the team in question know that I was going to need to take myself off the project, where it was like I could hear a voice in my head apologizing to myself. Almost as if one part of me was saying to another part, hey, I'm sorry that I wasted your time and resources. I knew at the beginning, I knew the moment I said yes to that project that I did not have the capacity to take it on and to finish it and to not get behind on all this other stuff. And I'm sorry that I put you through that I stressed you out, that I made you stay up late at night, that I did not respect your time and energy and resources and the ways that you had thought carefully about how you wanted to allocate them at the beginning of this year. And I was like, that is one of the weirder experiences I've ever had, is the feeling of listening to part of myself spontaneously apologize to another part of myself. And I think that was a really cool sign of just getting somewhere with my inner work around self-love and self-compassion. And rather than berating myself and telling myself I should have known better, the predominant voice in my head was like, yeah, I did know better and I let you down. Part of you that deserves comfort and spare time and spare resources, and I'm sorry. And it made me think about how little we talk about self-apologizing. We talk a lot about apologizing to other people, but normally when we let ourselves down, what we do instead of apologizing to ourselves the way we would to a friend who deserves to hear an apology when we have done something that hurt them, we go instantly to self-criticism, right? We're like, I should have known better. I was such an idiot. I should never have taken that on. I never get anything right. And we don't show ourselves true self-compassion by acknowledging the impact that we have had on ourselves by treating ourselves in a way that we knew was not necessarily the most respectful, and giving ourselves a genuine apology. So that's what we're talking about today, how to apologize to yourself. And by the way, there was this thing going around earlier this year that was like, what's your apology language? And it broke down apologies into all these different components, which I thought was cool. I thought that the breaking down of apologizing was a neat idea. But I was like, all of these kind of matter. The questionnaire asked you to pick between things like, do you like when someone acknowledges that they hurt your feelings? Or do you like when they fix the situation so you know it won't happen again? And I'm like, both of those things need to happen for an apology to be complete. So it's not about apology language. It sounds like you're just fragmenting what could otherwise be a really beautiful, holistic, healing apology that you could give to someone else and saying what part of it do you want? So in this video, we're going to talk about how to give a holistic apology to yourself. Step 1 of 5 that I made up and loosely stole from the apology languages. Express remorse towards yourself. So this step is all about admitting to yourself and acknowledging to yourself that your feelings matter. The situations you choose to put yourself in life and the way that you choose to spend your time and money and energy and resources, those things are important. And if you have made a bad calculation and you have spent those things unwisely, you need to acknowledge that. And you need to look at yourself and go, I squandered something important. You have but one life. on God's green earth and I wasted part of your life, or I did something that I am not in retrospect happy that I did with your life, and I am sorry because your life matters. This step is about acknowledging that you matter, that the way that you spend your time, your energy, your resources, it matters, it's important, it's not frivolous. And if you have squandered some component of that, you owe it to yourself, to your inner child, to say, I'm sorry. I should not have done that. I should be careful when I think about the situations I put you in. I should be careful when I think about the way I'm using your time. I should be careful about the things I ask you to invest in and show up to day after day after day. These things matter because they make an impact on you as a human being. And sometimes when I'm trying to figure out, like, do I owe myself an apology or not, I think about, what if I were a child? Like, what if I were a child who I were responsible for taking care of? And I think about the situations that I put myself in, and I'm like, would I put a child who I loved in that situation? Would I put them in a situation that would stress them out to the point where they weren't getting enough sleep, or they weren't eating healthily, or they were experiencing chronic stress? Would I put them in a situation where someone else were being rude or inconsiderate or talking down to them? And if you would not put a child who you love in the situation that you put yourself in, you probably owe the child in yourself an apology, right? Step 1, express remorse. Recognize that the situation you put yourself in was not a particularly kind one to put yourself in. And this is different than saying don't push yourself, right? There are lots of ways in which we push and challenge ourselves to grow, and we might end up not sleeping much for a little period of time while we're working on something we're excited about, or we might get into conflicts that is really important to work through. But this is about recognizing when we have put ourselves in situations that we know are disrespectful to ourselves, where the cost-benefit analysis of the situation we're in doesn't quite work out in our favor, and we keep engaging with it anyway. Step 2, show that you understand what you did wrong and why. So at this step, what I encourage you to do is get really real with yourself about why you did the thing that you did that you now need to apologize to yourself for. And I think this is an important component of apologizing to other people too. Right? When people just quickly apologize as soon as we're mad at them, or as soon as we express discontent with something they did, but they don't really seem to understand what led to them doing that thing, the apology doesn't really feel sincere, because it's kind of like, well, I know next time you're just going to do the same thing again, because I don't think you actually have an idea of what the dynamics behind this situation was. And the same is true for ourselves, right? If I took on this project knowing damn well at the time that I did not have the resources to complete it, how do I know I'm not going to do that again? If I had that gut intuition at the beginning and I didn't listen to it, how do I know things will be different in the future? So this step is about examining the context that led you to making the mistake that you made. So maybe some part of me in this area of myself I don't really want to look at or admit actually kind of wanted this project as a distraction from other things that were more important. Maybe I kind of wanted a reason to not look at more difficult things in my life. And if I can admit that to myself, I'm going to be a lot less likely to make that mistake again than if I tell myself, ooh, I should have known better, but I didn't, and I did it for no reason. That's never the case. We always more or less know the reason, right? Or maybe I took on this project because I thought that completing it would make me look really good to other people. And I was in a phase of my life where my self-esteem wasn't doing great, and I wanted something to give me a boost. Maybe I took on this project because I was feeling avoidant, and I wanted a reason to opt out of a bunch of social engagements for a while. The more clear we get on the secondary reasons behind why we did what we did, the more we can isolate those variables that are going to be kind of danger zones for us repeating the mistake in the future, right? So the more honest we can be with ourselves, and the more we can explain to ourselves without judgment why we did what we did, the more self-trust we start to build. Because now we're not letting ourselves get away with anything. We're getting really clear on the reasons why we did what we did, and we are not committing the cardinal sin of lying to ourselves about our own motivations, because that's where stuff gets really dicey. Step 3 is kind of the flip side of step 2, which is acknowledge what you didn't get wrong. So I read this blog years and years ago, and unfortunately I completely forget who wrote it, but it was talking about how when we fail, we're often a lot closer to success than we realized. So often we look back at failures and we only look at what did I miss, right? What did I get wrong? Where did I fail to show up where I could have shown up? And we don't look at the 80% of the thing that we got right. We don't look at how overwhelmingly we may have been on the right path. We just didn't have all of the skills or resources or time or energy or knowledge and understanding that we needed to get to the end, right? This can apply to jobs. It can also apply to personal relationships. Like I see a lot of people coming out of, let's say, long-term romantic relationships, and they see the entire thing as this terrible failure. And it's like, well, if you spent years in that relationship, there's probably a lot of really great stuff that went right in that relationship. There's probably a lot of ways you guys found to make each other laugh and to support each other and to really celebrate your lives together. And that stuff is equally, if not more important than what you did wrong that led to the downfall, right? That stuff really needs to be remembered and to not be thrown out with the bathwater. And the same is true of any mistake. It's important to look not just at what did I do wrong, but what was I getting right in the process. Sometimes I think it might even be helpful to just make a little like T-chart. Things I got wrong, things I got right. And you're showing yourself in that process that you are not an epic failure. You are someone who tries very hard, and you win some, you lose some, but you want to be able to extract the wins from the losses and keep those going forward. Step 4, make any amends and repair any damage that you have caused to other people. So depending on what the mistake is, you might have to do a whole ass apology tour, or you might have absolutely nobody to apologize to but yourself. But this step is really important because when it comes to your own sense of alignment and self-esteem, you need to make sure that you are showing up in the world in a way that is congruent with the way that you are feeling and thinking internally. So if you have made a mistake where you let yourself down and in the process you let someone else down, this step is about taking the time to acknowledge that to the other person or people involved and doing whatever you can to make right by them. And if you want, you can borrow the structure of this video to make your apology to them, because apologizing to other people and apologizing to yourself, in my opinion, should be not that different at all. Step 5, make a plan to address the same situation differently in the future. So this is harking back to point number 2, right? Where you looked at why you did the thing you did. Now you owe it to yourself to take it a step further and help yourself come up with alternate solutions to similar problems going forward. Again, I feel like all of us have had at least a situation where someone is sitting in front of us, apologizing, and we're just looking at them being like, I know you're going to do it again. I know the next time we're in this situation, you will behave in the exact same way. Don't be that person to yourself. Do not be the person who is sitting there lying to their own face, okay? If you cannot change and show up differently for yourself, no one else is ever going to. So you have to get this right from the inside. Go back to everything you wrote down in step number 2, every hidden motivation, every obscured fact, everything that led you to make this decision that in retrospect you know you should not have made, and find a better way to deal with every single one of those problems in the future in a way that actually addresses those unmet needs holistically, so you know if this situation comes up again, I will have a better way to handle it. Write down an action plan that is realistic, not one that leaves out half of your needs, which you might then cave to in the moment the next time a decision or a crisis point comes up. Figure out a way to incorporate the conflicting needs that led you to make the wrong decision in the first place, and work towards a place where next time a similar decision comes along, you now have a 360-degree view of the situation and you know a better, more comprehensive solution to it. All right, this video is uncharacteristically short for me, but I think I'm going to keep it at that. That is my 5-step self-apology process. I also chose to buy myself a cake. Me and my closest cousin, who's also one of my best friends, when we were around 20 years old, we started this practice of apologizing to each other with cakes anytime we had a fight and needed to make up with each other. So whichever one of us was in the wrong would go to the store and get a cake and get them to write sorry for the whatever went wrong on the cake. So with this project I was talking about at the beginning of this video, I actually, the day I handed it back and was like, I cannot finish this, I'm sorry, I went to the store and bought myself a cake and wrote, sorry for taking on that project on the cake. And then I had some friends over because I am not eating sugar at the moment. and I got them to eat the cake on my behalf. But I actually encourage you to find something like that that really memorializes and makes it clear to yourself, explicitly clear, that you are not getting away with your own behavior. You have made a mistake, you are deeply acknowledging it, and from this point forward, you have a better way of dealing with it. All right, let me know your guys' thoughts on this in the comments of this video. As always, I love you. I hope you're taking care of yourselves and each other, and I will see you back here again really soon.